another edition of the Paranormal Zone. I'm your co-host, Tom Spitalere. It's been a great week. I got Bob on with me, my great co-host. Thanks, Bob, for joining us. This show...
Hey, Tom.
Hey, this show is about talking about paranormal, UFOs, Bigfoot, from many different angles. But today, we're going to take a different angle on, unless we get I guess, calling. There was a little mix-up with the phones, and that sometimes happens when we're moving across the country. But today we're going to start the conversation talking about, we've talked about ghosts, we've talked about aliens, UFOs, UAVs, Bigfoot, Birdman. But you know what we really haven't talked about? We haven't talked about fundraising in the paranormal. What can paranormal do to help a nonprofit? And Bob, I think you and I have a little experience in this, just a tad bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, between the two of us, we've done quite a few fundraising events. It's always as funding, federal funding, starts to dry up, and it certainly has, changed in the last few years. My fear is some of our historical buildings are now falling into disrepair. I think we've seen that without mentioning names. Right. In some of our fundraising, you and I, Tom. Mm-hmm. So, when we do these events, I think it's important for people to know, and for the historical societies to know, that we take nothing out of that. You get 101% of any monies you raise.
Correct.
So it's really a great revenue stream because it's all profit, frankly, to them,
Right, exactly. And I mean, all you really got to do is put some coffee or tea or bottled water out for the guest and a couple little snackies, and you can cook those yourself. And you charge $10, $20, $25, whatever you want to charge, and you get people there, and they do the paranormal, and they're happy because they got the bottle of water to drink, especially if you do it in the summertime, or a cup of coffee when it's a little cooler, like right now, and everybody leaves happy.
Yeah, I have recommended, and people have used this in different historical societies. You go to your Dunkin' Donuts, you go to your local Hannaford's or whatever supermarkets and so forth you have in your area, and they're willing to donate. Now they won't donate a lot, but they'll donate a bucket of Joe and a dozen donuts, and then you put a little card out there, donated by. I think that a lot of times, Tom, fundraising groups don't go to those type of places enough. The second thing is that big fundraising groups are looking for too much. I think if a historical society goes to their Dunkin' Donuts, for example, not to pick on them, but goes to Dunkin' Donuts, they're happy to give a box of Joe and maybe a dozen donuts and put it out there. I always tell the historical societies that I work with, don't spend a lot of money. Like you said, water and stuff like that, but go to your local grocery stores or donut shops or whatever, because that's advertising for them.
Right, exactly. And not only that, the only other really amount of money you're going to spend is you get somebody in-house that can do flyers. It's now just printing off 100 flyers and putting them around the town, and then you use Facebook and social media to pull the rest of it off. I mean, we've done well working together up there in the Sandown area between two historic organizations. We've also done well, I've done well down in the Merrimack Valley working, Hilldale Cemetery, the Tenney Gatehouse when we were doing that. Scare Cancer Away is another thing that I've started years ago, raise money for cancer patients and cancer societies and stuff. So, I mean, there's plenty of things to do out there to attract people to raise money. And it doesn't just have to be the Halloween season.
Yeah. And the other thing that you and I have offered many times is raffles. Right. You do a raffle for, $1 a ticket, 50 cents a ticket, whatever. And then maybe you give away something like next time you do a home investigation, or next time you're doing a historical investigation in a public type building, that they get to come on as guests with Essex County Ghost Project.
Right.
You know, people love that.
Yeah, we've done that. I've also done gift certificates for up to 20, 25 people. I've given those out to nonprofits, many of them through the years. The Buttonwoods Festival of Trees, the Haverhill Santa Parade this year. I gave out 2 of them this year. They valued over $400 to the Haverhill Santa Fund. I've given those out to nonprofits for silent auction items. The Valley Patriot Bash, where the money goes back to kids for school, for college, money to help these kids go to college and stuff, grants and stuff like that. So, I mean, we give those out. More than happy to give that out. So, I mean, that's what we do. We try to help everybody that needs help.
Yeah. You know, the other thing, that very few of these, especially historical societies in these type of towns, you know, they have T-shirts, they have hats, souvenirs, and everything else. The other night at the Sandown train depot, they had the foresight to open up that kind of gift shop, and they sold some T-shirts and stuff out of there. So, you know, if you're doing an event like we have coming up on Saturday, I recommended to the Sandown Historical Society, you know, give us 10 shirts, 10 hats, and send one of your representatives up and sell those kind of things at that event on Saturday. I mean, it's just extra money in your pocket. If you don't sell, you only sell 2 or 3, so what? It's 2 or 3 you sold.
Right, because, I mean, most of those museum gift shops are open, the museums are open, and unless your museum is open 6 days a week or 5 days a week, you're only open for special events, really.
Right.
Or once a month or once a week. Some of the smaller historical groups are only open once a week, and some of the real small ones, you're lucky if they're open once a month, because it's hard to get volunteers. So, I mean...
Yeah, you're right.
You know, we had a good turnout. I think we had close to 30, 40 people, which is great, because you don't want too many on a ghost hunt either, because you want people coming back. When you have too many, it throws off the equipment. Well, it doesn't throw the equipment. It throws off an EVP, especially when you're in a room like the Sandown train station that's got paper-thin walls. I mean, you could hear what the other group was doing. They could hear what I was doing. The only one that had its own seclusion was the train car.
Right. Hey, you know, the other thing that we've done historically that our listeners should be interested in is that although we can't guarantee any activity because we don't control that, that's controlled by spirits, and they decide if they're going to make themselves known. But by you and I going into these places twice and doing private investigations into these places, we get the spirits ready for the big event, frankly. And that's always worked very well for me, because it gives our team a chance to understand what's actually in there. Because we really want our guests to experience a true experience type thing. So we don't want you to just listen to a lot of talk. We want you to understand how we use equipment. But as important as that is, we want you to see the equipment being used so that you can see we're actually making contact with the spirit. So, you know, by us going in and doing 2 investigations in these places prior to the big event really helps a lot.
Right, because you get to know where the spirit is. Sometimes you don't have that luxury, and sometimes you do. But that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do these type of fundraisers, actually.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
The other thing that I've had good luck with, I didn't do many this year. There wasn't really a call for them. They're either called, you can call them many things. I'm going to use the 2 words that most people around here use: a dining with the dead or a dining with the crossed over. So what that is we go to a restaurant. The restaurant charges X per head. Then we add X for the nonprofit. And then we sell the event at X, whatever X plus X equals, that's what we're getting. and then the money goes to the restaurant, and then the rest of the money goes to the nonprofit, and we do usually a ghost walk through there, and usually have somebody who's a speaker of the paranormal, of something went on in there. We'll have them speak about it. So you're going for dinner, you get a talk, and then you get a paranormal walk afterwards. Usually those end up between anywhere from $50 to $80, $90 per person. But when you think about it, you're getting a talk, a ghost hunt, and food. Where you're not going to get, in today's world, you're not going to get a whole lot for under $100 like that.
Right. Yeah, the other aspect of this too, Tom, is that when we do a historical building or a historical restaurant, there are many of them right here in the New Hampshire area and certainly in Massachusetts that go back and have its own history. So you're not only getting to see a ghost hunt, but you're really getting a chance to see some of the history of the area you're going into, like Church on the Plains. The old meeting house dates back to 1754. So even if you say, well, I'm really not into ghost hunts and that kind of stuff, that's okay. Come to the event this coming Saturday and enjoy the history of one of the greatest old meeting houses in New England today.
Right. I mean, there's not many of these places left standing. So, I mean, you can come, walk around, make a donation because it's donation-based, this one is. And if you want to leave before the ghost hunt, because you don't believe in ghosts, that's fine.
Yep.
All the money's still going, 101% of the money is going to a nonprofit.
Yeah. And I think it's important, too, to note that most of these historical societies do go on a donation basis. And frankly, they're not, if you show up with a family of four, they're not looking for donations from all four. So they're very reasonable in their request. They're not selling tickets. But again, I think that's why we try to mix and match it for you so that there's something for everybody that comes. If you bring your spouse isn't into ghosts, then, he or she gets to enjoy the historical side of it, excuse me. And, if your other spouse is into it, then they're going to get both. So, and I think really to help out the history, sometimes I really believe that we're losing, every year we're losing more and more of the history of our country. And I honestly believe that the phrase that we're destined to make the same mistakes we made before if we don't understand history.
Right.
Certainly Hitler was a great example of this. What happened with Hitler was just terrible. So we need to be able to understand the history behind that and the Holocaust to be able to avoid it in the future.
Right, and understanding and preserving history. If we don't preserve, there was a great quote, and I can't remember who said this, so I'm going to paraphrase it so we don't get in trouble. If you can't preserve your history, it's like throwing dead flowers into the wind.
Yeah, good one.
We got to preserve our history one way or another, and I have always fought to preserve history, and even before I was in the paranormal, I was fighting to preserve history, holding developers accountable when they buy a historical building and stuff. I have a trail record of that, of holding people responsible. When you buy a historical building, make sure you preserve it. If not, you'll see me around. But as far as the financial end of this, it is expensive. That's why I've always believed in having the paranormal is a way to raise money. And why would you do it that way? People say go after grants. You can. But in the city, the small city the size of Lawrence, there's over 80 nonprofits in the city of Lawrence. There's over 70 nonprofits in the city of Haverhill alone. That's just two communities. I think Methuen's around 50, 45 to 50. Don't quote me, but I think it's somewhere around that. There's only so much grant money to go around. And there's only so much you can do it's not going to be, oh, nonprofit aid did the same thing. They just changed the name of it in the same city. That's not going to help either nonprofit if you're both doing the same thing or something similar to each other. At least when you're doing it total opposites, then it doesn't matter if it's the same night as your fundraiser, because people will go to the people who can afford the $120 ticket dinner fundraiser will go to it. And if you're running a ghost hunt at $15 or $20, and people who want to help out a nonprofit can't afford to go to that nonprofit at $120 a head, they'll come to a smaller event, and they're still doing their good due diligence by supporting a nonprofit.
Right. And I think, too, that, it goes beyond just historical buildings and historical societies. I mean, we certainly over the years have done fundraising for things outside of that venue, for people that need help, cancer patients, somebody that needs a wheelchair. So, when we look at fundraising, we need to expand our scope of what really we could do with the fundraising for people. And they need to understand that, if you let us know that you need us to do a fundraiser for you, we really do take every request seriously, and we look to say, what could we do for you? So it's not just historical buildings.
No.
I know that you've been very active in going to assisted living and making presentations.
Right.
Because I think that every age group has interest in what we have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever, you and I have been friends for 25 years.
Yeah.
I don't think either one of us have ever really tried to convince anybody that ghosts exist.
No.
Frankly.
No.
I always tell people in my presentations, and I know you do too, if you don't believe in ghosts before you come here, you probably won't believe in them when you leave.
Right, exactly.
But what I hope our presentations do and our investigations for the public do is to show you that there may be another side to this whole thing that you should at least go home and research.
Correct. And I did find that interesting. This started about 3 years ago with one assisted living location, and it went to 2. Now this year it's going to 3, a nursing home, and so a couple assisted living places, a nursing home and a senior center. That's what the other one was. And I was amazed at this. I mean, yes, that's not really fundraising, but we're out in the community helping our seniors. So I went to the senior center in the community. I won't say where because I'm not going to do that. I don't want inundation over there. And the lady came, and a whole bunch of people came. Had close to 30 people that day. That was pretty good for a senior center in the middle of the daytime. Actually, late morning. Sorry, it was 11 o'clock, so 11 to 12. So, I mean, that's a pretty good number. They had 9 other events going on at the Senior Citizen Center that day, too. So that wasn't the only event going on. So to have that many people was very exciting to me. And I actually had this lady come up to me thinking we might have picked up a case. I'm not sure yet. I mean, I'm going to leave that totally up to her. But she believes her grandson came back to the house, and she wanted to ask some questions to the grandson. So I had a conversation about that because grandson died in a car accident, but she's got a belief that it wasn't just an accident.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it is what it is. We deal with this every day. I mean, we have people come up to us after library talks and ask the same question to me.
All right.
So, I mean, the people want answers, and that's why they come to these talks. I don't care. In fact, at the Senior Citizen Center, yes, it was quite comical. I had somebody in there who was like 3, 4, 5 years old. He came with grandma and grandpa. His grandma and grandpa must be watching the kid, and it was a school day, but I think the kid was a little too young. I would say half day kindergarten or something, and then with grandpa the rest of the day. So they brought the granddaughter. It was a great family event. You know, the recent library talk. The recent library talk I did that had over 40 plus people in there. I actually had a mother, daughter, grandmother, and grandpa, and husband there.
Wow. Lots of generations.
Yeah, there's lots of generations. And I firmly believe that the paranormal is not going anywhere. I mean, yeah, there's less and less TV shows out there because I think people are just getting sick of them. I hear that a lot at the talks that I do. You know.
Right.
My favorite question, Bob, you must get this one. This isn't about raising money. How come it takes you so long to go through a recorder or a video camera to find evidence, where on TV they do it in less than 5 minutes?
That's really kind of a simple answer, right? Because on TV they're making millions of dollars.
Yeah, on TV they make
right?
A production company.
Yeah, I know that you and I both know Ghost Hunters, the original guys, and with due respect to them, I think that the listeners have to understand that TV, almost all of TV, is meant for entertainment. Yeah. That's what it's meant for.
Right.
And the truth is that and I have been on Sci-Fi Channel, so I know where I'm coming from. They have a production, and they have production costs, and they have to stay within the confines of those costs.
Right.
So, listen, you have to go into it knowing that's entertainment. That's what it's for. It's not educational in some kind. It's just entertainment.
That's
it's like
right.
Watching.
You were on a national show at one time, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, I did for about 20 minutes. Listen, nobody is asking for my autograph.
What show was that, Bob? I did see you on that show, but I don't remember it now.
It was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and frankly, it was kind of interesting. It was a house in Laconia.
I thought
New
it was
Hampshire.
Amesbury.
No, it was in Laconia.
Oh, it was
New Hampshire.
Laconia? Okay.
Yeah, and the woman that owned the house passed away. That becomes important in a minute. But anyways, they sold the property. It was a beautiful piece of property. I actually tried to buy it and couldn't afford it. But the house dated back to the days of slavery, and it was on the railroad. They brought slaves up from Massachusetts and places like that, and on their way to Canada. And the crew went in anyways to do this renovation. They started to have all kinds of problems. Saws would just turn on. They'd run downstairs, there was nobody there. At one point, there was a pretty good-sized tank sitting on a counter. The guys were upstairs working, and next thing they knew, they heard that fall on the floor. They ran downstairs. It was laying on the floor. We brought a medium in, and the medium made contact with the woman who lived there, and she was complaining about the way that the contractors were treating her home. With all due respect to them, they were in there to demolish it. That's what their charge was. So they weren't doing anything disrespectful. They were just doing their jobs. But the spirit that owned the house felt they were disrespecting it. And what we found was that behind the wallpaper in the rooms, there were tunnels. And what would happen, Tom, is that if they suspected people were coming to check the house to see if they were helping the slaves, they would put them in these cubby holes behind the walls and then put the wallpaper down over it.
Right.
And I guess it was pretty successful. But, the whole story was that Sci-Fi wanted somebody to come in and do a ghost investigation during this, and they filmed that thing. So that's how I had my 15 minutes of fame, and that's frankly all that it lasted. So, but it was an interesting house. They found, weapons behind the walls. They found Confederate uniforms and Yankee uniforms. They found some cash Yankee type cash. So it was definitely on the railroad. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that episode. That was actually interesting to watch. I will say.
Yeah. You know, the other thing, back to fundraising, one of the areas that I'm really surprised haven't reached out to you and I to help them, because I have on many occasions said I'm really interested in helping the veterans. I think the veterans in this country really are overlooked a lot.
That they are.
You know, yeah, especially disabled veterans, but all veterans for that matter. And you know, I want the organizations out there that can help out veterans to know this group is more than willing to do a fundraiser for you. You know, and don't get discouraged if you think, well, we don't have any places to go, we don't have any places that we think is haunted or anything like that. You know, we can find venues. Okay. It might take us a while, but we will find venues that will cooperate. So don't feel like you don't have a venue, so you don't call on us. We're here to help you through what Tom and I have researched for 25 years. So we're trying to take that research, frankly, and turn it into something that helps the elderly, disabled veterans, historical societies, you know, anything that comes along that needs funding.
Well, I will say this. I did a talk at one of the assisted living places. I did a few, but I'm not going to mention which place, okay? Because obviously we don't need extra headaches for the people. But after the talk was done, this guy came up to me and started talking to me. Now, one of the things I talked about was Haunted Merrimack Valley at one of these locations. So Haunted Merrimack Valley is everything in the Merrimack Valley, including the Canosa Triangle. And someone had sent me pictures about 3 years ago or so of some UFO sightings over Guile Street in Haverhill. I'll even tell you the street, no big deal, right? I'm just going to give you the address where it came from, right? And this guy started off his conversation with me. Well, not that old either. He was in a motorized wheelchair, but I mean, he seemed to get around all right. I would say 70s. We're not talking, 90-year-old guy sitting in a wheelchair, can't move. This guy was 70 and very coherent. He was telling me all the experiences he had through the years. He says, thank you. Now I don't feel as crazy. So
yeah,
that's one person in an assisted living we were able to help out.
Yeah,
and I said, not a problem, sir. So, he said, I think I got pictures still. I said, well, whatever you got of pictures, just get a hold of the so-and-so over here. They'll call me in if you want. I'll come in here and meet you. Have a cup of coffee. I'll even bring the coffee. I'll bring my buddy who's real good at the UFO stuff, too, and we'll sit down and chat. We'll bring the coffee. They probably got coffee there, but we'll bring the coffee, Yeah. In fact, I know they do because they got a kitchen and everything over there, so it's not like it's a huge deal. They got a full-fledged kitchen and everything in there. I saw some of the meals come out last night. Oof. The other night. Oof. It made me hungry. And even if you own a business, I mean, 3 years ago, this started, and I'm going to be honest with everybody, this started as kind of a joke, okay? Yep. Not a negative joke or negative connotation, but more or less, let's try this. I don't see how it was going to work, and it was me telling these people, I don't see how this is going to work, okay? Me, the paranormal guy. So this one I will say, this is from the largest chamber on the East Coast, the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. So 3 years ago, they were at Maria's Restaurant in Haverhill. They asked me to come in and do a talk in October on the paranormal. Okay, I guess we can do that. No big deal.
Yeah.
Right? I did it. I didn't think it was going to go over well at all. It went over real well. I went to an assisted living place right after that. That was one of those 3 talks a day that I sometimes do in October. And my phone's ringing, and I see whose name it is. I'm like, oh, God, okay, let's see what goes on with this. So after the talk call, it goes, Tom, we loved it. Everybody's still talking about it. We want you back next year. Next year turned into at a big, humongous location. It was not haunted, so basically we had to tell everybody we were doing a demonstration. And then the last 2 years, Oh, God, I've been doing it that long. Yeah. So 4 years. This is the 4th year now. The last 2 years we've done it at Smolak Farms, which I can say that because Mike Smolak in North Andover is a client of Essex County. He's seen UFOs fly through his property. He's lived there all his life. The farm's over 300 years old. Dates back to Native American wars. We do a lot. We do some stuff over there for him. But we had a chamber event there. That sold out in no time at all. So even if you got a business group, a BNI, I think they're called, or BIN, BNIs, and you want somebody to come speak, get a hold of Bob and I. We'll come and speak.
Yeah.
And it's really,
I
get that through the paranormal zone.
Yeah, I say this all the time on our podcast. Just send an email to the word paranormal, PARANORMAL, at yahoo.com with any requests, any ideas you might have. We're here to help, and Tom and I and Tom's group, the Essex County Ghost Project, these folks volunteer their time, and they enjoy what they do, so I think you'd enjoy seeing them.
Yeah, no, it's a fun time for everybody. I mean, we've always had
a fun time. Yeah, it is. Which brings us to this coming Saturday, right? We're at the Sandown Meeting House again on Saturday. Probably our last event there for the season because it's turning cold. And, of course, that building is all original. If you ever want to step back into history, certainly that's the place to come to because it's all original inside. There's no changes to it. Never been altered in any way.
Nope.
So there's no heat. That's where I'm leading here. So
there's no heat or electricity. Oh, there's a plug outside.
No electricity. Yeah, and frankly, I always tell people there's no bathrooms unless you want to use the outhouse that's been there since 1754.
Right.
Which is open to the public. But
right. I have to say, now, people that are listening, everybody's probably seen an outhouse if you're old enough, or young enough, I should say. Sorry, young enough to see an outhouse. But this outhouse even amazed this historian. Because I've seen outhouses. This was the first public outhouse, I think. It has like 6 stalls to it. 6 stalls. I have never seen an outhouse with 6. I mean, you can't use all 6 stalls, but at one time you could use all 6 stalls. I have never seen an outhouse like that. I was like amazed when I saw that.
Incidentally, it's all wood.
And it's all wood, yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's all wood.
Yeah, but again, so, if you can get up to the Sandown Meeting House, again, paranormal nh at yahoo.com. If you want directions, you want an idea of what we're doing, send me an email. I'll be happy to respond to it. Because after Saturday, we probably won't be back there again until the spring. When the weather gets a little better.
Right, and I don't have the exact dates, but if you follow Essex County Ghost, because I didn't bring my calendar book in with me.
I think this all.
I have another event coming up in Haunted Hilldale Cemetery at the end of the month. It's the last one of the year, because obviously we're going to be outside, and it's going to be kind of chilly.
Yeah.
So that's another fundraiser. So we got a lot of great events still coming up. I mean, Essex County and with the help of Bob too and everybody else this year booked 31 events just in the month of October alone. So we're just what is today, the middle of the month? Just past the middle of the month.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and also we've got the restaurant here in the Hampstead Sandown area, at least, that we're working on doing a dining with the dead that could be done. We may do that. Yeah, we may do that after the first of the year or something. So we're working on that. So it doesn't go away, and I think this is a great segment into, the paranormal zone. I apologize to our listeners tonight because we had coming on an abductee Interesting enough, the abductee was, I'll just say, international. It wasn't from the United States. He claims, at least, he was abducted on a number of occasions. He had a little bit of a problem, and his family couldn't make it tonight, so we apologize for that if you were looking forward to it. But what I wanted to say, Tom, was that we are looking for abductees to come on and tell your story. We understand how difficult it is sometimes to tell that story, because sometimes you can't even tell it to your own family, unfortunately. And we want you to know, if you come on our podcast, you come on totally anonymous. Nobody knows who you are. You don't have to use your right name. That's not important. What's important is you telling your story.
Right.
So, again, reach out to me at paranormalnh@yahoo.com, and, just request coming on. We have a few questions we ask you and we talk about, but this whole podcast is based on offering a voice to everyone in the paranormal community.
Right, exactly. Because I actually did that years ago on another podcast. I interviewed the guy. I did the background research because he swore he saw Bigfoot as a kid in Haverhill. You can actually listen to it. It's another podcast show out of HC Media, where I used to be at doing podcasts before I started with you over here years ago. I listened to the story. I did some background check on it, like we do everything else, and found out it was real. So we had him on.
Right.
We used a different name, and I put that disclaimer out there that just in case someone goes, I recognize, calls me up and goes, I recognize, because that was local podcast. That wasn't an international one like this is. I recognize that guy. I went to school with him. That's so-and-so. And then they go to the comment section and go, that's so-and-so. So we always we'll even have you come up with the name if you'd like. So even with Bigfoot, and even you don't want your house, you live in one of the craziest haunted houses you can think of. You give us enough evidence, we don't have to use your name.
Right.
If you want to stay
anonymous.
This
isn't about identification.
Yeah. You want to stay anonymous so you don't have people knocking at your door, and I don't blame you. I mean, Bob and I, we get called on cases, we go to them, okay?
Right.
And Essex County has a 24-hour turnaround, which no team has at all. It doesn't mean we're coming in 24 hours to investigate. It means one of my team members will be there to do an early look-through, a walk-through with you, talk to you, see what happened, try to calm the situation down, and then we'll schedule you in. That's what I mean by a 24-hour turnaround. But you will have a human from the Essex County Ghost Project at your house within 24 hours if we decide to take the case. So, I mean, that's just who I am, and it's who we are as Essex County. And we enjoy what we do. None of us make a dime out of this. I work 2 jobs, and Essex County is like a third full-time job for me. But like I said to people before, Bob, and you've said this, when I stop enjoying something, I just quit. And that's me. Doesn't matter how much greens are coming in or how little greenery is coming in. That's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, I don't, you and I, and I'm sure a lot of other paranormal investigators, and certainly UFO researchers and stuff, this truly is not about the money. I don't think I've ever made 5 cents in 25 years I've been doing it. It's all about finding out the truth. And I've always say to people, that's what I'm interested in. Do spirits exist? I believe they do. I truly do.
So don't I.
Do aliens exist? Do UFOs exist? We know UFOs exist because that's unidentified flying objects. But do aliens exist? Extraterrestrials? And I, again, think they do. But I am looking for the definitive truth to be able to say, okay, I solved that issue. There's no doubt that exists. We can prove it. I think that the extraterrestrial part of it, Tom, is going to be easier to prove than the spirit and the ghost side of it. Because I believe, and I've had this conversation with many UFO experts, I believe within the next 2 to 3 years that our government is going to come out and make an announcement. I think it will take longer for it all to come out. But that's why you and I talk about and do presentations in libraries about places like Roswell. Roswell wasn't a make-believe thing. We just did a podcast on Jack the Ripper. A lot of people think Jack the Ripper was just a story, a legend. Well,
right.
It wasn't. It was true. It was like the Boston Strangler, right? So History Mysteries comes into it to where, we interviewed the gentleman from London that just, cracked the case and came up with the actual individual through DNA evidence. And the book is out now, came out early October. And he's coming back on the podcast shortly to do a follow-up to the book and how they identified the DNA. And I have talked to him. He has told me some things that he's asked me not to put out in the air until he has a chance to come on. But you'll find it fascinating on how he cracked this case after, I don't know, arguably 120 years or 130 years or something like that.
Right.
So, again, that's what this podcast is all about. So use it. Come on. Send me an email. Say, look, I have a story I want to tell. I want to come on. We don't have call-ins, Tommy. You and I agreed we won't do call-ins because we don't want our guests to be put under the microscope with questions and comments that maybe we can't control or want. Because we want this to be a positive environment for you.
Right.
Come on, it's a protective environment. If you've seen a ghost, come on and tell us that. If you've been abducted, come on, tell us what the story is. Because if you do it, then somebody else will do it behind you, and then so on and so on. And the more data we can collect on abductions, the sooner we're going to find the answer, frankly.
Correct.
So, hey, you know what, Tom? I applaud you for developing this podcast, and I want our listeners to know that the effort that Tom has put forth and continues to put forth to make podcasts and the TV shows he does and the fundraising is beyond what anyone would expect of one person. So congratulations. You are really a leader.
Well, no, what I try to do is be there for everybody that needs us. And that's, and that's been my motto since day one. Help, help, help.
Well, you've accomplished that goal.
And helping, and not only that, educating the people, because I tell people all the time, you don't need me to come to your house all the time. There are times when we're going to need an Essex County Ghost Project or you, but not every time you see something that goes bump in the night do you need to call a paranormal team in. And you got to watch out who you're calling in because you really don't know what you're doing. You have.
I always say to people, Tom, listen, if you call a paranormal team, just do me one favor: don't pay for it.
Right. Well,
if you have a home, don't pay to have a paranormal team come in and do an investigation.
No,
you're wasting your money.
It's a total because there's nothing we can do to guarantee anything, and that's why you don't charge because plumbers and electricians can. One of my favorite stories to tell. This lady had my number and she didn't want to contact me because she thought it was too far for us to go, Essex County. Okay, I'll tell you the city it was in, and that's it. I live in Methuen, and for all the local people, and she lived in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Wow.
That's a long ride.
Okay.
To her, that was a long ride. Okay.
Not since they put 93 in, but that's all right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, not since 93 went in. Right, exactly. This was a young girl with a young single mother with 6 kids.
Yeah.
Some people have heard this story, some may not have, so we'll just do it quickly. So they were paranormal activity problems in the house, right? So they brought this team in from New Hampshire. Boom. Okay? So they put the K2 meter on the floor, and they started asking questions. And the K2 meter would light up. Okay. They asked if there was a demon in the house. The K2 meter lit up. Well, that pretty much scared the living daylights out of my client. Future client at that point. She wasn't a client. So they said, okay, there's nothing more we can do. We have a team member that charges $2,500 to get rid of demons. Oh, now that's a lot of money.
Right.
That's a lot of money, especially for a single mother with 6 kids. I mean, so what they did was they protected the mother till she made a decision. They put the couch over the demon to protect it.
Oh.
Over the spot. That's how ridiculous this story is. I try to tell it with a straight face because this was truthfully did happen, but it's even hard for me to tell the story with a straight face. So we get to the house. I said, "Where's the demon?" Under the couch. Can't move the couch. So me and another team member moved the couch. I said, "We'll put the couch wherever you want it when we're done. We don't care. You want it back here, you want it somewhere else, we'll move it for you." Okay? Yeah. So we moved the couch. Put the K2 on the floor. It was acting kind of weird. Like, okay, that's interesting. So we asked if there was a spirit there. It lit up. We asked if there was anything else. They kept like, I said, wait a minute. This is acting weird. And then you could see when there were no questions, it was kind of flashing but not lighting up the whole K2 meter right across the row. I'm like, this is weird. I said to a team member, is there a basement? Yeah, there is. I go, I need you to knock on the floor right near this. So I go down the basement. Yeah. I hear the knocks. I look up. I knock back, to make sure I'm at the right area of the floor. Thank God I looked up before I knocked because there was exposed wiring in the basement right underneath the K2 meter.
Oh.
So I went back upstairs. I said, is Santa Claus here? It lit up. Is the Easter Bunny here? It lit up. Is Uncle Sam here? It lit up. Yeah. She goes, I can't believe we got all these ghosts. I said, we got to go downstairs. She looked up. Yeah. She goes, I better call the landlord. It was a light that they took down, but they never capped off the wires.
Wow.
I'm like, whoa. Yeah. I said, there's your demon. Now, were there spirits in the house? We did find a few. Yeah. They were very friendly. They were actually wanted to help the lady out raise those kids. But you see what I mean? They weren't the demon. No, yeah. No, they weren't.
They weren't the root cause of the problem.
No. Yeah. So we put the couch back where she had it originally. She thanked us, and she got the landlord to fix the lighting. He apologized. Hey, things happen. I guess he had an electrician in there that swear he finished the job, and the landlord was out of the country at a funeral or something. So he just assumed his electrician did the work. The electrician called him and said, work's done. I'm going to send you a bill. He goes, okay, no problem. I'll be back whenever. And he just never came to check it because he trusts his electrician. And lo and behold, the electrician forgot something. So, I mean, you really got to watch what you bring in, too.
Oh, sure you do. Yeah. I mean, it's there's no guidelines. We go under guidelines that we create ourselves, but there's no state or federal regulations on paranormal investigators. They don't really take any tests.
No.
They don't have to qualify to be that. They just decide one day I'm going to be a paranormal investigator, and then they begin. I encourage people to get into it. I truly do. I'm not trying to discourage it, but you need to do diligence and look into it and understand how to use tools correctly. And you really do have to understand that you're dealing with people's lives. I mean, this affects people in a lot of ways, so you need to understand that. I'm going to close out my portion of this program tonight by just saying that we are looking for a venue and a organization that can control the funding for our friends down in Florida. Mm-hmm. I think that this hurricanes that have hit down there have been certainly in the media, but I'm not sure that the devastation has been promoted the way it is. They're really struggling down there in a lot of communities.
Oh yeah,
and I know that FEMA is doing the best they can. There's no doubt about that. But if we could hook up with an organization out there that's listening to this, or somebody in an organization, pass it on. If you will set up the fundraising part of it, the revenue part of it, and help us find a venue, then Tom and I will bring our groups in and we'll do a fundraiser for the folks down in Florida. So The challenge is out there. If you want to step up to it, again, paranormalnh@yahoo.com. We'll respond in kind.
Yeah, so, I mean, hopefully we get that, because I know I got friends down in Florida and down south that took a beating. They really did.
Yeah.
I mean, some people didn't lose everything, but they lost enough. And a lot of people lost everything.
Yeah, and I think our listeners have to understand that you and I are in a position as a nonprofit organization that when you get into fundraising, we truly want the Red Cross or somebody like that to handle the money part of it, because that's where the problems come in. Not only raising the money under just Essex County Ghost projects and places like that, but it's also getting the money to the right people in Florida. So we need a professional channel in between us so that we raise the money and they take it and they get it to the right places.
Right, because there's so many scam artists. They're being warned all over the social media.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And frankly, that's when we do come under government scrutiny for that kind of stuff. And we should be. I think that too many scams are out there today. They're getting worse by the day. So anyways, that's what we're looking for, is an organization that wants to step up, that handles this kind of stuff. We'll be very happy to work with you to raise some funds. So.
All right, then. So we also got the live Halloween show coming up soon. Then I just want to talk about that real quick. That's going to be shown at, I believe right now, I'm just waiting on confirmation from MCTV. Bill Rickett TV's a definite, and it'll be shown in Lawrence and wherever else you got a public access station. Reach out to me, or reach out to the Paranormal Zone. If you got a public access station that wants to run that night, it's no charge at all. Just let us know,
right,
and we'll run the. We'll make sure you get on that station too. So it's going to be a fun night. We got a fun thing planned, and this weekend, please get there early. Bob should be there around 3. The ghost hunt will be around 6, roughly 6:15. Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
I just saw this today, so our listeners should look into this. Someplace today I read this Halloween falls on Friday the 13th, and it's been 666 months since the last one fell on Friday the 13th. Of course, 666 being what some people think is the code of Satan, right?
Right.
I mean, if you don't get that. So, yeah, I haven't looked at it, to be honest with you. I just read that a while ago before we came on air, and I thought it was interesting that it's the first time it's happened in.
How's it on Friday the 13th?
Halloween?
Yeah, it looks like it's on a Thursday night here.
Oh, really? Well, see, one of the things is towns now are doing Halloween at different dates.
Yeah, that's true.
when I was a kid 200 years ago, it was always on the same day.
Right.
But I guess.
And when I was a kid, 300
the original
years.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Was is going to be Friday the 13th, 666 months after the last one. So.
Oh, okay.
Well,
that is interesting, because I don't even see Friday the 13th on our calendar this year.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
That is real interesting. There is a Friday the 13th in December.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure everybody stays out of the boiler room that day, because you don't want to go check the boiler and not come back, that's for sure. But that's
maybe we missed Halloween.
Yeah, we might miss a whole lot if we go to the boiler room the wrong day, that's for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah. All right, Bob. Well, we're coming to the end of another great Paranormal Zone. So this was fun. Next week we'll definitely have a guest back with us. I mean, it's hard when you're booking international guests. Sometimes things happen. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, we got a good guest coming on next week, so we'll be back to the routine of guests.
Yes. Not that we don't have any fun. We're having a lot of fun the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So, I mean,
all right
then.
I will see you Saturday.
See you Saturday at the Haunted Sandown Meeting House, and I hope everybody listening can make it to the Haunted Sandown Meeting House, even if you don't like the paranormal. Come early, take a walk around the building, enjoy the history. Bob will be there early. What time, Bob?
I'll be there at 3 o'clock.
He'll be there at 3 o'clock. The ghost stuff will start after 6. So come on down.
So if you want to come in and just see the building, I'll be there to take you through it.
Right, exactly. And check out the outhouses, too. Because that is just history in itself. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in here in the States, here in the Valley, here in the New Hampshire area, and, of course, across the Great Pond in England, Scotland, Australia, Germany, you name it. I know you're there. And I forgot about the people on the other coast, too. Oops. On the left side of the coast, California. The left coast, yeah. So I want to thank you all for joining in tonight. We'll see you soon. I'm heading back to my crypt. Good night, everybody.